One of my favourite stories is Perazzi. Daniel Perazzi originally worked for Beretta, a very, very talented engineer. And he decided that he was going to leave Beretta and start on his own. So he left Beretta, started up building his own guns, and he made it common knowledge that his ambition was to build the best gun in the world. And arguably he did. He built the MX-8 SWATCOM, which has won more medals than any other gun. When he left, Beretta got quite upset with him and tried their best to make life difficult for him. One of the things that they tried to do was build the hand-detachable locks, the same as he built in the MX-8. And they just could not get it right. They tried for many, many, many years to build a hand-detachable lock as good as the MX-8. But try as they might, they couldn't do it. So that was one thing in Daniel Perazzi's favour, is that he had produced what he said was going to be the best gun in the world. The nice thing about Italian guns is that they use a lot of really high-end technology. If you ever get the opportunity to go to the factory, go, because you will be absolutely gobsmacked, about how nice it is and about how clean it is. One of the things that sticks out when you go to the Perazzi factory is the barrel makers. Traditionally, in gun making, barrel making is one of the worst jobs you can get. There's a famous saying that barrel makers are all thick in the arm and thick in the head, because they spend their whole life polishing the barrels, honing them, getting the shapes right and so on. In the Perazzi factory, the barrel makers look like ice cream salesmen. They stand there, white coats, clean hands. They have this fantastic machine where you press a button, the front lifts up, you clip the barrels on, you set the computer to the weights and thicknesses that you want, press a button, the glass panel comes down, and they start, and it hones the barrels. And they are as good as you can ever get. So, with the use of high-end technology, CNC machines and so on, Perazzi will produce a gun which is, you can't produce it by hand, it's so refined. In 1981, myself and Shirley went to the Perazzi factory. Shirley in those days was shooting a hell of a lot, and Daniel Perazzi built a gun for Shirley. And that is actually the gun that he built for her. He suggested to Shirley that for her size and weight, the MX-8 might be a little heavy. So he suggested the MT6. One of the things about the MT6, it was slightly lighter than the MX-8. And also, it had a tapered rib. Sit at the back, sit at the front, so that's a tapered rib. And what that did, it brought the weight of the gun back into your hands. The other thing that he did, he built out a Monte Carlo stock because typical lady, long neck, very high cheekbones, so you needed height in the comb. So he gave a height in the comb to make up for long neck and high cheekbones. To make up for that, he put a little step in the rib so that when she got the gun and shot her head on the gun, she could see down the rib. Sadly, Daniel Perazzi died a few years ago, but the good news is his son Marrow took over. And Marrow, he doesn't sit in an office, he's on the workbench the whole time, and he's working. Everybody that shoots with a Perazzi is shooting with a Perazzi because it is their choice to shoot with a Perazzi. There's at least one other big gunmaker in Brescia who tries to buy the best shooters. They don't want to particularly shoot with their guns, but they will buy them and pay them large amounts of money to shoot with their guns. There was one young lady who went from Perazzi to this other company, and she said to Marrow that she'd been offered large amounts of money to change. And Marrow said, look, it's your choice. We do not buy shooters. They will support shooters, they will do everything they can to help you if your choice is to shoot with a Perazzi. But they don't actually give people loads and loads of money just to shoot with their guns. And that is why everybody that shoots with Perazzi, A, wins, and B, is happy to do it, because it's their choice to shoot with a Perazzi. They're not shooting with a Perazzi because they're paid to do it. It took a couple of days to make the gun. At the weekend, there was a competition locally, and Shirley went out and shot the competition and won her class. So first time she shot the gun, she won her class. And the prize was the Lady of Brescia. The Lady of Brescia is a very famous statue that was found many, many years ago, and this is a copy of that, and it's solid bronze, so it's very, very heavy. When you walk up the main street of Brescia, it goes up into the mountains, and as you walk out of Brescia, out of the industrial area, you walk up into the mountains, and every now and again you hear boom, and that is them splitting the marble out of the mountain, and that is then taken down and polished into tabletops and so on. So very famous for gun making and for its marble. So Shirley had a Perazzi in one hand and the Lady of Brescia in the other. So we walked into the airport, went through all the immigration bit, walked into the lounge, and there in the lounge is a Garda stood on a foot high plinth. And we walked in, and Shirley had Perazzi gun case in one hand, Lady of Brescia in the other. We walked through, and this Garda got down from his stand, came over, and he said, what do you have there? And we said, shotgun. He said, no, this. What are you doing with that? It turned out that he was there looking for people that were smuggling antiquities out of Italy. And he was convinced that that was an original and we were trying to smuggle it out of Italy. And we said, well, if we're trying to smuggle it out, why would we have it under our arm so everybody can see it? And it took, well, we thought we were going to miss our plane. But he didn't care about the gun, didn't care about we were taking the gun on the plane, it was merely the Lady of Brescia. And we eventually managed to convince him that it was a copy, it was a prize, it was a trophy that she won. So, again, silly story about, you go around with shotguns, that's fine, but don't try and come out of history with something that looks like an antiquity. So just an interesting little story. So that really is the story of, I was going to say the rise and fall of Perazzi, but the rise of Perazzi over the last 30 years. And now, arguably, they still build the best guns in the world, best machine-made guns in the world.